Hi everybody, it's Az here with AZCast number 13. Do not adjust your sets, and if you follow me on Twitter, you would have seen a message today saying there's no AZCast today. Zerg has got the week off, he's got some other commitments. I had a backup plan, unfortunately that fell through, and so I had a backup plan that I tried to go to, and that also fell through. And so I said, no podcast this week, folks. Normal service resume next week. But I am a person who gets very guilty about these sort of things. And I thought to myself, look, just because your backup plans failed, just do it yourself. So we're going to fly solo today in AZCast number 13. No co-hosts, no guests, no nothing, considering everything fell apart. And what we're going to do today is we're going to go through a little bit of gaming news, and then I'm going to go into my discussion piece, good news, for you fans of the World of Warcraft and who like to hear me talk about World of Warcraft, because the discussion piece will be the first week of the pre-expansion event. I've got my little setup here. Got myself some sugar-free dirty black juice. Yum, yum. Got myself a little bit of water. It's so hot, I've turned the fan off. The temperature in here is excruciating. Let's get on with it, shall we? Okay, so first bit of gaming news. Want to start off with my favourite game of all time, No Man's Scam. No Man's Sky, I think its official title, but let's call it what it is, No Man's Scam, was released in August of 2016. That is almost 2 years ago. Let that just sink in. In literally a few days' time, 2 years ago. And we had, when this game released, we had Sean Murray, whatever. I'm trying to eradicate him from my brain. Come out to magazines, interviews, etc., and bareface lie and scam the audience into what the game was going to do when it didn't at all. So there's a huge amount of dishonesty here by Hello Games. When the game released and people saw that what he said was completely untrue and it was a vacuous, empty grindfest of a nothing game, there was literally nothing to do. And all the aspects of multiplayer, all the aspects of finding your way to the center of the universe, all these aspects that were completely lied about, factions, taking sides, blah, 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 blah. They were exposed as complete and utter lies. Now, Hello Games did the honourable thing in 2018, which is to go radio silent and not respond to any of the criticism, because they're cowards. Hi folks, we lied to you, we scammed your money, and now that you're mad and you're trying to challenge us about it, we're going to do what any good coward does. We're going to shut up shop and not have a dialogue with you. Now, in my eyes, and in a lot of people's eyes, but I think even if you have a modicum of common sense, it's clear to see that they got exactly what they deserved in terms of the ire of the community. This game was missold, it was a complete scam, and people who are mad were right to be mad. You could, I believe, for a limited period of time, get some refunds. But I think they were trying to prevent that. And there's a lot of mitigating circumstances. When I say mitigating circumstances, I mean into them lying. But it doesn't, put it this way, it doesn't justify a single solitary thing. Even if Hello Games had embarked on a relationship with Sony, and let's say Sony were putting a bit of pressure on the game to be released, Hello Games could have turned around and said, look, the simple fact of the matter is, this isn't going to be in any sort of state that we want when it comes out. And we can't in good conscience sell it based off what we want it to become. We either need more time, or we work out some sort of deal where we say we're going to release it now, but it's going to come out in an early access type of vibe at a very small cost, a limited cost. We're going to be working on the game to turn it into what we want to turn it into. And then when we're going to go full release, they can up the price to full release price or whatever it may be. They could have worked something out, but they didn't. They took the money. They built up the hype. They lied. They scammed. and they released it. So now, July 2018, almost 2 years to the day that the game released, they have released an update, a patch, which to all intents and purposes has seemingly gone down relatively well with people. So does this mean because after 2 years they release one decent patch for the game, we should now forgive Hello Games, give the game a chance, and see where it goes? Well, the answer to the question is, it's up to you. It's your decision to make. I can't tell you to make an arbitrary decision. That's not how life works, nor is it how life should work. In my personal view, as you probably heard from what I've just been discussing, I say no. And the reason I say no is when a company shows how blatant and how easily they won't just lie to you, but they will scam you. They will literally steal your money based off telling you how something's going to be and then not follow through and not deliver just because they do one decent thing 2 years later doesn't, in my eyes, justify it. It doesn't, in my eyes, make them forgiven, and it doesn't, in my eyes, turn the corner on Hello Games. I personally will never purchase another Hello Games release as long as I live, because I refuse to support a company that literally scam you, lie to you, barefaced lie to you. So Sean Murphy is now back on the scene doing his thing. No Man's Sky is also out now for the Xbox because the game was such an unmitigated failure that the PlayStation exclusive that it was, I think Sony were just like, let's try and get some more money. Let's also license it out to the Xbox as well. We'll take it. Sony will likely cut the revenue from Hello Games, and Hello Games need to boost the revenue. They need to boost up the marketplace that will actually see their game. I personally don't care that this patch has gone down relatively well. And when I say it's gone down relatively well, I'm not talking like it's a messiah of a patch. I'm not talking about it being, oh my god, this is genre-busting update here. This is something which is just phenomenal that we've never seen. Oh my god, need to play. No, it's a decent update apparently for the game. And that's about it. So on a personal level, I can't support Hello Games. I can't support a scam artist like Hello Games and a scam artist like Sean Murray, whatever. The grinning assassin. I can't support this whatsoever. So if you want to give it a try, I'm a fair guy. I'm reporting about it. If you want to give it a try, you've paid your money. You're like, hey, dude, I want to get value for money. I paid like 10 minutes. I played like 10 minutes. If you want to get value for money, sure, give it a try, whatever. It's a free update, as it blooming well should be. But me personally, sorry, I can forget, but I can't forgive. When it comes to certain games, it's like Destiny 2, you know. Well, Destiny is a franchise, really. Destiny 1, to my eyes, completely lows down. Destiny 2, really. So, you know, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. So Destiny 2 is a shame on me because I knew I shouldn't have purchased it. But Destiny, will that get any more support from me in the future? Probably not. And at least they didn't scam me. Bungie didn't scam me. They just made a pathetic attempt at a game to try and get money. And to try and push you into the cash shop and stuff like that. They didn't scam me. You know, I knew what I was getting myself into. And I made the decision. But there you go. So, Hello Games, shove it up your ass. Sean, Murray, whatever you're called, get a moral compass. Get a moral compass, you know? I'm sure you love money. Money's great. Money purchases things. But do you know what money can't do? Money can't affect your conscience. Apart from negatively. So there we go. Yeah, there's a little bit of an No Man's Scam update for you there. Little chat now about Final Fantasy VII's remake. Now, if you're anything like me, massive Final Fantasy series fan, this remake was announced, 3 years ago? Maybe a little bit more. 2 or 3 years ago it was announced. And it seemed like, It was being announced to coincide with the 21st anniversary and the 20th anniversary. Sorry, I should say the 20th anniversary of Final Fantasy VII. So it looked like it was going to come out 20 years later as the remake. But apparently, the announcement was not just a wee bit premature. It was like all the premature. And the game had absolutely gone nowhere. And since then, let's just say nothing really good has come out of this whole Final Fantasy VII remake fiasco. They outsourced some of the work to another studio. The work was so substandard, it's virtually all been scrapped, and they've had to take it all in-house, take it to Square Enix, and work on it complete and utterly there. So that wasted time, it wasted money, and it doesn't look like it's going to be anywhere close to release for God knows how many years. So, Tetsuya Nomura has decided to say, I think we made the announcement a little bit premature. No shit, Sherlock. Yeah, this is the problem with announcing games early. I mean, we have frustrations. You know, I've been frustrated for years at every E3 not hearing a peep about The Elder Scrolls 6. But you know what? At the end of the day, Bethesda have done the right thing. Because if they haven't got anything to say about it, just don't say anything about it. And this year, because of, I think, the multiple years accumulating now where people are like, where's Elder Scrolls 6, Elder Scrolls 6, Elder Scrolls 6? This year, they gave us a soup song saying, it is something in development, it's going to be a while, but we are doing something with it. Don't panic, it is a game which will come out in the future. Now, how many years? I don't expect personally to see The Elder Scrolls 6 for probably until 2022. Although it breaks my heart to say such a thing. I need to survive until that year. But I don't expect it to. There was nothing in what they showed off at E3 that made me think to myself, all right, this is coming out next year. Or anything like that. No. So, ultimately, Bethesda did the right thing. This remake of Final Fantasy VII, yeah, it's exciting news. It's interesting news. It's a game which is held in such high regard by so many people that to have it updated and of hopefully of the same size as the other Final Fantasy VII, that is ridiculously exciting. Ridiculously. So I understand the news and I understand the willingness to get the news out, but I think the news maybe have been fed better by saying this is now just entering development. We are working on it. It isn't going to come out for several years to come. Keep your knickers in a twist. And then when it releases, get your knickers out of a twist. But there you go. So, yeah, no kind of shocks or surprises with saying that it's still heavily in development. I think they've been working on it for 4 years, and it's nowhere close. It's just absolutely nowhere close. And when you think about certain games being held in development for 10 years, 12 years, God knows when this is eventually going to come out. Will it come out on this generation of PS4, Xbox One? I'd probably say no. I probably think it's kind of leaning towards wherever the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Infinity or whatever comes next is going to go into. So yeah, no shit, Sherlock. Final Fantasy VII Remake ain't anywhere close to being ready. Final piece of news, because we're doing a lot of tempting fate here. Final piece of news. Oh God, I dread to say this next bit, but okay. Bioware might have opened their mouth a little bit too big. Because Bioware have said, if Anthem turns out to be a failure, it isn't going to affect the studio. I'm bringing the mic in a little bit closer now. Okay, you happy with that? It isn't going to affect the studio, and EA won't close them down. Now, I don't know if this is bravado. I don't know if this is them trying to preempt a potential shutting down of Bioware. But EA have a track record. They don't care about your past, they will shut your studio down. It's as simple as that. If it's not performing the way they want to perform, they will shut you down. I just need to point you towards Bioware Montreal. When they released the pathetic Mass Effect Andromeda, can I just say as well, to the people who say Andromeda wasn't that bad, it was just, rushed out, and it was garbage. Its writing was abysmal. Its acting was abysmal. Its storyline was abysmal. It was an abysmal game that might have had an average combat system. Its enemies were abysmal. I could go on and on and on about how bad that game was. The studio was shut down. If Anthem tanks, there is a very good chance that EA might take action. I don't think BioWare have it in them or within them to make such a grandiose statement. Maybe if EA does shut them down, if Anthem fails, and they turn around and go, well, we were assured that they wouldn't do this. Who gives a shit about any sort of saving face? No one cares. No one's there going, oh, well, they tried to save face. Get out of here. Nobody cares. People are just going to be pissed that such a prestigious studio as BioWare that makes the Mass Effect series, that makes the Dragon Age series, two majorly beloved franchises, could be on its way out. Nobody gives a shit about you saving face. Nobody gives a toss about that whatsoever. So BioWare making this sort of grandiose statement, oh my god, I think that they're baiting the bear, and the bear has no conscience. The bear doesn't care. The bear will maul you. The bear is EA, chin chin. Delish. So that's where I'm just going to leave the little tidbits of news today. Let's get into the main meat and potatoes of the podcast. And I want to talk about the pre-expansion event, week 1 for the World of Warcraft. And to sum it up very quickly before I go into my points, it was hot garbage. Week 1 was utter hot garbage. Now, let me go into why. Number 1, I did this from both sides, from both factions, both sides of the equation. From the Alliance side and from the Horde side. I started off by Alliance because I am, first of all, an Alliance player, secondary Horde player. So I did it from the Alliance side, and the Alliance storyline was just dreadful. Absolutely dreadful. Non-interesting, non-engaging. There was nothing that got me excited or interested in the event. Now, this is part of a multi-layered story leading into Battle for Azeroth. I get that. This is a setup week. I get that. But do you know what setup is meant to do? Setup is meant to make you anticipate the future story. That's what setup's meant to do. When I had finished this first week, I was so cripplingly bored of what I'd just been through. I actually had no interest whatsoever in picking up next week's storyline. Now, next week's storyline could be great, because that's when we're going to get, when I say we're going to get, that's when Darnassus gets burnt down, the tree gets burnt down, and we're going to see how that takes effect and all that kind of stuff. But this story leading into that should have left us on a knife edge. It should have left us drooling at the bit, at the mouth, to get into next week's content. And it was just dreadful. So why was it, from the Alliance side first, before I go to the Horde side, why was it so dreadful? Why did I find the Alliance side so boring, so dull? Well, when the story kind of automatically leads nowhere apart from a dead end, then you know it hasn't been thought through properly. Number 1, it started off in Ashenvale, where the town, which was Banana, was destroyed in Cataclysm. It'd already been destroyed in Cataclysm. The Horde were smashing it to pieces. It was on fire. Everyone was dead. And suddenly, out of nowhere, it was just back running as normal. The Horde just decided, oh, okay, let's just bugger off. And this is a problem that the game has when it doesn't do anything to update its world or update its story. Because Cataclysm happened 8 years ago. And it's amazing to think that it's been nearly a decade since the World of Warcraft's Kalimdor and Eastern Kingdoms have had any sort of relevant update whatsoever. So the story of Cataclysm and the Horde pushing all the way through Ashenvale and taking huge chunks of it, and the Night Elves being pushed back into Darkshore, and even then pretty much pushed back into Darnassus, really kind of pushed all the way back through. Suddenly it's just like, no, because now we're going to burn down Darnassus, we need to try and create a road through. So this town, which is already wrecked, it's back, baby! So that made no sense. So I'm somebody who likes to think about things logically. And I'm somebody who likes to have a story make sense. Because when a story makes sense to me, I can invest in it. And when a story doesn't make a lick of sense to me, I can't invest in it. So, you could argue and say, well, the Horde, maybe they pulled back and the Night Elves went back into the town. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't. The Horde backing off, the game never showed that. The game never had any hints of that. The game never showed anything. And what we've seen throughout recent years, especially with Garrosh and now Sylvanas, is that the Horde have become very aggressive. Very aggressive indeed. And so even when Vol'jin was war chief for 5 minutes before he got killed, it doesn't even make sense that Vol'jin would say, well, let's just stop everything, pull back, let's give everything back. No, Vol'jin might not be an aggressive person, but at least he might say, right, well, let's just consolidate here. We'll consolidate in Ashenvale, hold that territory, we'll consolidate for whatever little excursions were done into Darkshore. So that would make a lot more sense. He wouldn't necessarily be aggressive to push forward, but he would certainly be somebody who would consolidate and not capitulate. Although his character was useless, and I know people love Vol'jin, but his character in game was useless. He did nothing at all, ever. So if you just played the game, you really had nothing to get invested in. Whereas if you did other stuff, yeah, sure, you could love the guy. But just from a story perspective, the guy did nothing whatsoever. So first of all, we have a town which should be in the hands of the Horde, is back in the hands of the Night Elves. You then get pushed back into Darkshore, which you've already been done through Cataclysm anyway, because there's a huge Horde base on the freaking border. So large, it can house the Horde army pushing into Darkshore. So again, not making a lick of sense. And when you get pushed back into Darkshore, things are so dire and the story is so tense that you decide to just chill out and kill some Furbolg. The Furbolg are all frenzied. And if you go to the area where you're meant to kill these frenzied Furbolg, they're just walking around. They're not looking frenzied. They're not like running around like headless chickens, like, ah! They're just like walking around. Some of them are on the floor sleeping. Frenzied Furbolg. It's just fillerific. It was just fillerific. There was no story. There was a pretense of a story. Right, the Horde are pushing through Ashenvale into Darkshore to be camped outside of Darnassus, ready for when it all goes wrong. That was the pretense of the story, and the implementation of it was hot garbage. It was just nothing of any worth whatsoever. And then, to cap it off, the pièce de la résistance is when you completed the first week of story, lots of air quotes here, it opened up a few world quests in Darkshore for you to do. Because the World of Warcraft, Blizzard, I really should say, Blizzard can't do anything in the outside world anymore other than just Bukake world quests all over our faces. They have no creativity. They have no desire, enthusiasm, whatever it may be, spark to create anything but world quests in the outside world. And it's dreadful. So you have these world quests to pick up a HD version of an existing tier set. Can't quite remember which tier set it is, but an existing set which has now got a HD, remake on it. Make it look nicer. Great, that's great. But God's sake, at least do something with the external world content. And without trying to preempt what's going to happen in Battle for Azeroth, it's just the same. There's nothing in the outside world of any interest in Battle for Azeroth. It's just Bukake world quest time. Same rewards as Legion. Have fun. Just do the same shit over again for another 2 years, people. Have fun. Bye. So it's just so disappointing that leading into a new expansion, Blizzard can't even think of anything interesting to do in terms of content. They can't think of anything interesting in terms of story. Now, I don't know where Christy Golden comes in to the story. Is she responsible for any of this? Certainly doesn't feel like it. Certainly doesn't feel like it whatsoever. I mean, she might be responsible for the premise of what happens, but the implementation of how stuff goes on, this doesn't smell like her work at all. This just smells like somebody who cashes a paycheck, who has no idea how to construct story or construct tension or to construct, that anticipation about where things are going to go. So I was just absolutely bored out of my freaking mind for the first part from the Alliance perspective. Push back into Darkshore. Hey, do some Darkshore world quests. Pick up some Azurite. Kill X of these. It's so generic now. It should just become World of Generic content because it's so generic. It doesn't feel as if there's been any sort of evolution. It doesn't feel like they are looking to evolve the game. It just feels like Blizzard are wanting to consolidate their current product. Just consolidate what we have. What we have now, that's it. We're just gonna grab it all in and then just ham it out a little bit at a time. It was awful. It's not something that I would, go, oh well, that's it, I'm off now, But it's just dreadful. And if I was a returning player and I did that, I'd be like, Jesus Christ. Bye. What have I come back to? So there was it left me with no desire or anticipation for where the story's going to go. Now I know where the story's going to go in a couple of weeks' time in terms of going to the Undercity after the Dionysus event. So I know where that's going, and that's excellent. And so it baffles me even more that we have this excellent scenario up and coming where the Alliance and the Horde fight in the Undercity. And we have this as the prelude to it all. The Undercity bit smells like Christy Golden's work. Maybe it isn't. But that smells like a different person's work to this hot garbage that was presented in week 1. It was dull. It was boring. It was uninteresting. It felt unrewarding. It was just, there was no story to get invested in. It was just dire. So from the Horde perspective, was it just as bad? The Horde perspective started off a little bit better because the Horde perspective looked as if that was where the story was mainly heading. They wanted to develop the story more from the Horde side than the Alliance side. And before any of you say, well, no, if you're doing both sides, the story has to be as relevant to both factions. You can't neglect one faction to present the story to another faction. It doesn't work. Too many people play both factions. They're nigh on balanced 50-50 throughout the world. So both factions must be catered for in exactly the same level of respect, care, and attention. So anyway, with that said, the Horde starts off a little bit better because it has a little bit more of an interesting quest line to start with. When you infiltrate the town, you're cloaked, you're sending somebody to do some assassinations. There's a couple of funny lines if you don't kill the intended targets and kill civilians and stuff like that. So there's a little bit of tomfoolery there, and also a little bit of seriousness with the quest line. So it started off pretty good. You then have the investment with Sylvanas and trying to push to Darkshore. And so from Ashenvale to Darkshore, it felt much, much better. And then they went into Darkshore and it just turned into another Snooze Fest 5000. Just turned into another boring, generic... Oh, look, now I'm doing the Furbolg quest for the Horde. You know, these frenzied Furbolg that are just so mad for it, they're just walking around as if they're sedated. As if they're on Ambien or something. And then other frenzied Furbolg are just lying on the floor sleeping. So you started to do those, and it looked like, again, you were just sort of repeating exactly what the Alliance was doing, but from your Horde perspective. And it was just like, oh, right, yeah, okay, yeah. Let's just mirror the quests now because boring. Let's just mirror the quests because got nowhere to go. And so when it got into Darkshore, again, the story vanished. It slowed down dramatically. I wasn't interested in where the Horde were going either. I was so bored. And also, more importantly, didn't make any sense. And this is the major thing. This is why it didn't make any sense. It didn't make any sense because the very first thing that is said to set up this storyline is the Alliance believe we are moving en masse down to Silithus to try and get the Azurite. So they're sending the bulk of their forces in a fleet down to Silithus already, trying to preempt our invasion of Silithus. So they don't. So the bulk of the Horde army goes over through Ashenvale into Darkshore. So you have the bulk of the Alliance heading down to Silithus, and the bulk of the Horde pushing through into Darkshore. Who has the advantage in Darkshore? The Horde. Story is telling you the Horde. Because the Alliance, the whole premise is the Alliance have tried to preempt it and the Horde have swerved them. Because Sylvanas has said, but if they get the Azurite in Silithus before us, they'll process it, they'll run it through Darnassus. So if we take over Darnassus, they have the product, they've got nowhere to facilitate it. So we can chip away at them, they have nowhere to push the product through. I get that. So what happens with the Horde push? As a stalemate. The bulk of the Horde army is brought to a stalemate by a skeleton retreating Night Elf force. I'm a member of the Alliance, and that don't make a lick of frickin' sense to me. They should have been overrun and pushed back into Darnassus. Now, I could understand if they backed up into Darnassus and fortified as best they could there, because it's a huge freaking tree and they can fortify it pretty well. I get that. But Darkshore, the Horde should have run roughshod through it. But no, they were brought to a status quo, a stalemate, and they're now just camping in a camp, ready for part 2 of week 2's story, next reset. Really badly told story. Really badly told story. And I have to stress again, if you're wanting setup, then the setup has to leave you either on a cliffhanger, or the setup has to leave you anticipating and desiring the progression of the story. And that isn't what happened here one bit. It went absolutely nowhere. Stalemate, boring crap, uninspired questing, generic. I did a stream, 2-hour stream, an hour for the Alliance, an hour for the Horde. I was falling, literally falling asleep at my chair. It was so dull. So next week, I mean, I can only hope and imagine that next week's will be better because the tree's going to get burnt. And then the week after, I know for a fact it's going to get better because that's going to be the assault on the Undercity. And I've played through that scenario from both sides, and it's excellent. It's excellent. It's an excellent scenario with very good storytelling, very good setup about where things are. And that leaves me anticipating where things are going to go. But this was hot rubbish, hot garbage, boring, generic, done it a million times before, nothing for an existing player to get excited about, and I very much doubt anything to get excited about if you're a returning player. In actual fact, rather off-putting if you're coming back to the World of Warcraft thinking, new expansion's round the corner, let's see where this story goes. Oh, great. Snoozerific. So, yeah, this is not the way to push your first part of the story. This is not the way that you should be preparing for your next expansion. This is going to sound salty, and I'm sorry, but this is a precursor to Battle for Azeroth, and this week sums up Battle for Azeroth quite well. But we'll deal with that in the future. I've got a lot I want to say about Battle for Azeroth, but I'm going to leave it until after its release. And the reason why I'm going to leave it till after the release, I could do the videos now, but I am not going to. Because I want it to release. I want people to play it. I want people to have fun with it if they can. You know, I want people to experience it. And then I want to give my thoughts and feelings. And if you agree, fine, that's cool. If you disagree, that's fine, that's cool. But I've got a lot to say about BFA, but I'm going to leave it until after it's released. Yes, and it is mostly negative, and we'll go into why, but I'm not trying to spoil anyone's fun. Have it released, enjoy your time, and then we'll discuss. So, short podcast today. Short and sweet, about 35 minutes or so. But at least you got something to tie over with. So, AZCast, I nearly said AZChats. AZCast 13 comes to an end. Thank you to my thank you to me for doing something. And I'll be back, and things will be back to normal next week. You take care. Bye for now.